It's almost mind-boggling when you really stop and think about it.
How's that?
Just the sheer tsunami of information, you know?
Yeah.
Crashing down on us every single day.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's incredible.
I was reading something back in the mid-90s. People thought knowledge doubling every, 18 to 24 months was warp speed.
Which felt fast then.
Totally. But fast forward to today, and we're dealing with over 185 zettabytes of data.
Zettabytes. It's hard to even picture that scale.
Exactly. The article I saw put it like this. Imagine 250 billion DVDs. Stacked up, they'd go, 186,000 miles high, basically tickling the moon.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot of DVDs.
Right. So it just makes you wonder, with all this info at our fingertips, why are so many businesses still, hitting walls?
That really is the core question, isn't it? People often assume, well, more data must mean better decisions, better outcomes.
Seems logical.
But what we're actually seeing, I think, in this era of just information everywhere, is that the missing piece isn't more data. It's something, well, deeper.
Yes. And that's precisely what we're going to dive into today.
Uh.
We're exploring why wisdom, specifically, not just raw knowledge, is the real key, the real engine for creating business value that actually lasts.
And we're basing this on some interesting ideas.
Yeah. Our main guide here is a really compelling article by Daryl Amy called Beyond Knowledge, Why Wisdom Creates Lasting Business Value.
Ah, okay. And it makes a key distinction early on, doesn't it, between knowledge and wisdom?
It does. It basically says knowledge is the raw stuff, data, information, the ingredients, maybe.
Mm-hmm. The facts and figures.
But wisdom is different. It's the skillful application of that knowledge, using it to make smart, strategic decisions that build value over the long haul.
Right. The article uses a great phrase, discernment applied to action.
I like that. Discernment applied to action. It's not just having the facts.
No, it's knowing how, and maybe even more crucially, why to use them effectively. It's about judgment.
That nails it. So for you listening in, our goal here today is pretty clear. Understand how actually cultivating this wisdom can give you a real, tangible edge.
Especially now, with everything changing so fast.
Right. An edge in navigating today's business landscape and really paving the way for success that sticks, for genuine value creation.
Okay, so where do we start? Maybe with why just having loads of knowledge isn't the be-all and end-all anymore.
Good idea. You mentioned the data figures, just the sheer volume. But it's also the speed, right? The acceleration of change.
Absolutely. Think about AI, how quickly it's evolving and changing how we process information.
It's incredible. AI can sift through text, audio, video, huge amounts of data way faster than we ever could.
It's like having this superpowered research assistant.
Totally. But, and this is the crucial bit the article points out, even with AI doing all that heavy lifting, that data analysis,
Someone still has to make the call.
exactly. Someone has to make those pivotal decisions, those judgment calls that really set the direction for the business. Data informs, sure.
But it's human judgment, ideally wise judgment, that seals the deal. That's where wisdom really comes into play.
Yeah.
And the author makes another really important point. Change itself isn't inherently good or bad. It's neutral.
Okay. How so?
Well, any change creates potential opportunities, pathways to grow, but it also creates threats, potential pitfalls.
Right. Two sides of the same coin?
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
And what separates the businesses that thrive during change from those that, well, stumble?
Yeah.
It isn't just their access to information.
It's their wisdom.
It's their wisdom in spotting and grabbing those opportunities while skillfully navigating the dangers. Think about huge companies today that actually emerge during massive disruptions.
Yeah, good point. While others, maybe stuck in old ways of thinking, just couldn't adapt.
They lack that crucial wisdom, perhaps.
Okay, so if just hoarding knowledge isn't the silver bullet, why is this idea of wisdom becoming so valuable? Like something buyers and investors are actively looking for?
Well, the article argues pretty strongly that wisdom has actually become a major value driver in itself.
How does that work?
Buyers, investors, they're looking for leadership teams that show sound judgment, that's seen as essential for, sustained responsible growth, not just quick wins.
Makes sense. They want stability.
And they're drawn to company cultures where wisdom kind of balances ambition, where it informs innovation, makes it smarter, less reckless.
So a company that consistently shows wisdom in its choices, it just projects this feeling of stability, right? Like it's more likely to survive long term.
Exactly. It signals they can probably weather the storms that inevitably come up in business.
Uh-huh.
And this perception, this sense of enhanced business readiness and appeal, it directly translates into value. The article suggests wise companies often get higher valuation multiples.
Because they're seen as less risky?
Lower risk, more likely to deliver consistent, sustainable returns over time. It's like, a safer bet for the investor or buyer.
Got it. Okay, wisdom is vital, clearly. But where does it actually come from? How do you get it? The article digs into a few sources, right? Starting with experience.
Yes, experience is definitely a foundational piece. The author brings up Jim Rohn.
Ah, the speaker.
Right. Rohn observed that throughout history, certain patterns just keep repeating. Change happens. Challenges pop up. Opportunities arise. There are cycles of boom and bust.
The basics don't change that much?
Kind of. It's a reminder that while the details might look different today, some underlying rhythms are familiar.
And that gives experienced people a certain perspective. The article mentions they tend to stay calmer during upheaval because, well, they've seen a few things.
Exactly that. Having that historical context can ground you, provide perspective. It stops you from panicking at every little shift.
There's a but, isn't there?
There is. The article rightly cautions that experience alone isn't enough anymore.
Why not?
Because while the patterns might echo the past, the sheer speed and the complexity of change today, driven by tech, global connections, it's genuinely unprecedented.
So what worked before might not work now.
Precisely. You can't just pull an old strategy off the shelf and expect it to fit today's radically different context. Experience is valuable, yes, but it's not the whole picture.
Okay, so experience is one layer, but not the whole cake. What's next on the list of wisdom sources?
The next one is framed as asking God. This one might resonate differently depending on your own perspective, obviously.
Right.
The article directly quotes the Bible, James 1.5. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all generously and without reproach, and it will be given to him.
So the idea is seeking guidance from a higher power.
Yes, and the article suggests doing it proactively. Not just waiting until you're in a crisis, but making it a regular practice.
Interesting. Sort of fostering humility, acknowledging you don't have all the answers yourself.
Exactly that, recognizing that our own understanding has limits.
Okay. And the third source mentioned it was love and counsel, I think. That sounds very relevant to business leadership.
It really is. The article points to another biblical reference, 1 Corinthians. Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up.
Knowledge puffs up. Interesting phrase.
It is. And the article connects making decisions with love to achieving better, more constructive outcomes. In business terms, this means making choices with people and for people in mind.
So looking beyond just the spreadsheets and the data, considering the human impact, employees, customers, the community.
Precisely. Which leads very naturally into the second part of that, the crucial importance of seeking counsel.
Getting advice.
Yes, and from diverse sources. The article highlights the wisdom in surrounding yourself with different perspectives. It mentions Jim Collins' idea of a council.
Right, getting the right people in the bus.
And Vern Harnish's strategic thinking team, Patrick Lencioni, talking about needing people strong in wonder, invention, and discernment.
Different skill sets, different ways of thinking.
Exactly. The core idea is empowering these people and genuinely listening to their insights, valuing their input.
The article uses a pretty stark counterexample too, doesn't it? A struggling public company.
Oh yeah, where HR, the people function, was basically treated like, managing raw materials, not people.
Creating this environment of fear and discouragement, high turnover.
Right. It really hammers home the point that ignoring the human element, lacking that love or consideration in decisions can be incredibly damaging.
Bad for morale, bad for business.
Definitely. And it reinforces this with a quote from Proverbs, where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in an abundance of counselors there is safety.
Abundance of counselors. So it's not just one mentor, but multiple viewpoints.
Exactly. Both your internal teams and external advisors, like the strategic value advisors the author works with. Getting those objective outside perspectives can be invaluable.
Okay, so let's pull those threads together. Wisdom comes from experience, but not only experience, from seeking guidance, internal, external, maybe spiritual for some, and grounding decisions in care for people.
That's a good summary.
Now, the article also connects wisdom to something called the 4 value creation engines. Can you unpack that? What are these engines?
Sure. The article identifies these 4 core drivers of business value as revenue growth, process optimization, culture development, and strategic innovation.
Okay, the big pillars.
Right. And the argument is that wisdom doesn't just touch on these areas. It acts like a multiplier. It significantly boosts their effectiveness.
Okay, let's break that down. How does wisdom multiply, say, revenue growth?
For revenue growth, wisdom brings that crucial discernment. It helps you pick the right opportunities to chase.
Not just any opportunity.
Exactly. And just as importantly, it helps you wisely say no to things that might look shiny but are actually distractions or maybe unsustainable or just don't fit the long-term strategy. It's strategic focus.
Got it. Makes sense. What about process optimization, getting more efficient?
Here, wisdom helps you prioritize where to streamline, where to improve efficiency, without killing flexibility or your ability to innovate later.
So avoiding short-sighted cuts.
Precisely. Sometimes a purely data-driven efficiency drive can accidentally choke off the creativity you need down the road. Wisdom helps find that balance between lean operations and future potential.
Okay. And culture development. That seems like a really natural link to the love and counsel idea.
Absolutely. Wisdom in developing culture fosters resilience, adaptability in your team. It encourages empathy, understanding,
Builds trust?
builds trust, and promotes a long-term view instead of just chasing quarterly numbers. A wise culture values its people and sustainable ways of working.
Right. And the last engine, strategic innovation. Innovation always feels risky.
It does involve risk, and wisdom provides the necessary prudence to manage that risk effectively. It lets you encourage bold ideas, creativity.
But without being reckless.
Exactly. It's about making calculated bets, informed by sound judgment, not just wild gambles. A wise innovator thinks carefully about the potential downsides as well as the exciting upsides.
So putting it all together, the big message seems to be that wisdom isn't just some nice-to-have fluffy virtue.
Not at all.
It's a hard-nosed, tangible business asset, something that directly boosts the bottom line and the overall value of the company.
That's exactly the argument. It makes a company better prepared, more adaptable, and fundamentally more attractive to buyers or investors. It improves both the quality of profits and the multiple applied to them.
Well, this has been genuinely enlightening, a really deep dive into something often overlooked, I think the power of wisdom in business.
It often gets overshadowed by the focus on data and speed.
Definitely. So just to quickly recap for everyone listening, yeah, knowledge and data are crucial building blocks, no doubt.
Absolutely essential.
But it's the skillful, discerning application of that knowledge, what we're calling wisdom, that truly gives you a lasting competitive edge in today's crazy fast business world.
And we talked about where that wisdom might come from. Learning from experience, yes, but also actively seeking guidance from diverse counselors, advisors, maybe even a spiritual source for some. And always, always keeping people at the center, making decisions with them and for them, valuing their insights.
So maybe a final thought for you listening to Chew On. How can you personally be more intentional about cultivating wisdom in your own work, your decisions, your sphere of influence?
Big question.
How do you move beyond just grabbing more information and start truly applying knowledge effectively, for real long-term impact and lasting value? Maybe think about those sources we discussed, experience, guidance, people, and consider what's one small step you could take this week to integrate one of those principles a bit more into your professional life.